All right, so welcome. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for registering. My name is Toluwani Adibakin, and I welcome you to the first Nigeria Esports Forum. And I'm going to walk you through the first couple of slides. Once again, thank you for taking your time out from today to join us. And we hope this is a good opportunity to learn more about esports and the opportunities that it offers. Next. All right, I'm gonna just a quick walkthrough of our agenda. Give me a second. Sorry. All right, a quick walkthrough of our agenda. I'm going to do a quick introduction, and then our keynote speaker, Dr. Joey, is going to speak to us as well. And then we're going to have a short esports panel, and then our special guest video from Mrs. Bukola, and then closing, and then next steps for esports and what we want to do. First of all, I'm going to introduce our partners. First of all, we have Athletic Heats. Athletic Heats is a sports management company in Nigeria that manages track and field athletes as well as Paralympic athletes. Athletic Heat is dedicated to helping professional athletes around the world leverage their skills and abilities. Our second partner will be Esports College and Career Pathways. Esports College and Career Pathways is dedicated to helping different people around the world leverage the esports or gaming activities for a career or college education in different parts of the world, in the US and the UK. And then Esports Africa, which is esports company dedicated to helping kids in Africa or in Nigeria gain more exposure and learn more about esports and how they can leverage their skills through esports in different parts of the world. And these are the three partners that brought together this beautiful program for us. I'm going to start off with our objectives, our partnership objectives, and I'm going to give a brief introduction and background about myself. Like I said earlier, my name is Toluwani Adibakin. I grew up in Nigeria. I went to school in Redeemer Secondary School. And as a regular kid, I participated in sports, ran track and field, inter-house sports, did all that kind of stuff. But then during my time there in RSS, I realized that I could leverage my skills and get an education through sports in the US. And that's something I've become passionate about. Throughout my time in the US, I was able to start Athletic Heats, which now helps and manages different athletes around the world. And then went on to get my master's at the University of South Florida, which has brought about Esports Africa, which is basically creating opportunities for young kids to be able to leverage your skills in different parts of the world. And that is basically the purpose of why Esports Africa is here and why we're here, to be able to create opportunities for young kids to go abroad or to study in different parts of the world and leverage their skills to get bigger opportunities in the UK, in the US, or anywhere they see fit. And that's what that's what esports is all about, because let's face it, it's almost impossible to get scholarships through either one sector, like for example, for education or for traditional sports. You know, it's important to diversify, and with how the world is changing constantly and things are changing at a rapid pace, it's very important to stay up to date with how you can diversify and leverage different skills in different areas. Next slide, I'm going to work you through our goals. I'm going to walk you through our goals as the partners and what we're interested in doing. We have four main goals. Our first one is to recruit students. We want to recruit students and find out more about them and their interest in terms of esports and help them get an education. We want to have student engagements, and student engagements means trying to involve them in more than just esports, helping them develop communication skills, develop interpersonal skills, helping them with other skills aside from esports so that they can be a well-rounded student. Our third goal is to give them access to colleges around the world, help them get an education while playing esports, hopefully funded. And then the last one is to create job opportunities in the esports industry. The esports industry actually provides different job opportunities, from being a graphic designer to being a game developer, or whatever their interest is, as opposed to esports. So we want to help provide kids with all these different opportunities and help them leverage all the skills to better themselves. I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Joey. He's the director of esports at Shenandoah University, and Shenandoah University is one of the premium leaders in esports academia, and it's one of the first major schools that has helped improve and diversify different aspects of esports. I'm going to hand the floor over to him for him to give us a little insights about esports and the benefits and how we can leverage it for better opportunities. Dr. Joy, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the introduction and excited to be here. This is really timely because something I was actually talking to one of our students beginning in a couple of weeks about is getting esports going in a bigger way actually in Africa, because he's from Ghana and he wants to get esports going over there in Ghana. And I was like, I'm actually speaking on a forum for Nigerian esports and talking about esports and how it can be used as a vehicle for education and possible job opportunities here in the States, but really around the world. And so really great timing on this, and really excited to be here to talk to you all. And of course, to be able to answer questions. That's a big thing that I'm about. Is I can talk all day long and tell you about esports, especially in the US at the college level, even the pro level, job opportunities. But I want to make sure that if you all have any questions, I can try to help get those answered as best I can. I may not know everything about collegiate esports. In fact, I don't know a lot about collegiate esports, but I certainly enjoy talking about it and can find the right people if I don't know those answers, because collegiate esports continues to grow and it can be used as this new opportunity to get an education, to do so much more than play video games here in the US and really around the world. My background is in sport management, and I totally understand the power that sport has for students, especially at the high school and collegiate level, and that it's more than just playing sports, just like esports is more than just playing video games. So here at Shenandoah University, we actually say beyond gaming is our tagline because we take that seriously. But to get us started, I want to talk a little bit about what collegiate esports is, and just to paint a picture, to provide some context for what it currently looks like. And it's a rapidly growing field, and it continues to grow both in US and around the world. Can you go back to that last slide? I'll make sure to hit some of these points before we get going to the map here to show all these different, thank you. The expansion of varsity and collegiate teams continues to grow rapidly. So the gaming opportunities are there. And I'm going to talk about some of the games that are played at the collegiate level in a little while. But just know that there's a lot of opportunities to compete in esports at the collegiate level across the country and really across the world. Professional development opportunities beyond playing games also continues to work. Things like content creation, event management, broadcasting, that's being offered at a number of schools. Here at Shenandoah, we have a broadcast production studio, so our students can get their hands-on experience to know what it's like to work in broadcast production and content creation in that realm of esports. And the last part here about collegiate esports is beyond that competing side, beyond the professional development, the academic side. That's such a big focus now for a lot of collegiate programs, including what we do here at Shenandoah, is preparing students academically for a possible career either in esports or at least related to esports. A lot of the skills and concepts that you can gain in esports can be applied across different industries. And so what we wanted to do here, similar to sport management and an academic sport management program, which is used to prepare students to enter into the sport industry, an esports academic program can be used to prepare students to enter into the esports industry, or at least other areas related to it with a similar skill set. So when I say collegiate esports, I'm talking about more than just the competitive side, even though that at the heart is what collegiate esports is. It's about competing, healthy competition, sportsmanship, adaptability, and we'll talk about some of those soft skills. But there's so much more to what collegiate esports is than just the competitive side. So I wanted to kind of paint that picture before moving on to some other things. If you look at the next slide here, you'll notice that on the map of at least of the US, that I've kind of highlighted where the current schools are that are offering esports programs at the varsity level, the competitive side. And so you can see that obviously there's a lot, right? This just kind of help paints the picture in the US where we see collegiate varsity esports. A lot of it on the East Coast and the upper Midwest, and even out getting towards the West Coast now, out towards where Catherine is, back there early in the morning, 6 a.m. out in California. But certainly esports is across the US. And like I said, it's around the world. This just helps paint the picture for where we currently see it here in the US at all these different institutions, which now is more than 300 institutions that have varsity programs. So a lot of schools continue to offer these kind of opportunities for students. And it's not just for students from the US. We see students from around the world that are getting opportunities to go to college, to compete for their teams, or to study esports and work in that field. And they're coming from places like Africa, like Europe, like Asia, and sending students here for those opportunities. If we move to the next slide.
Okay.
So a little more info about collegiate esports. Like I mentioned, over 300 institutions currently have varsity esports programs, which means they compete at the highest level possible for their college or institution. They have coaches, they have jerseys, they have practices, just like you would see for any more traditional sport, like track and field, or like baseball, or basketball, or volleyball. Esports is being treated the same way now across the world with that level of competition and that level of competitiveness. And so colleges are hiring coaches, they're getting jerseys and everything else traveling for these schools. So it really has seen a lot of growth and is becoming a lot more serious as it continues to grow. What we see now is also not just competitive esports, but scholarships also offered to compete in esports. And that's a really appealing thing, right? So students can be offered the opportunity to go to school for a sometimes free, but at least a reduced rate to compete and even to study and work in professional development for esports. So we're seeing competitors across a number of different games being offered scholarships, sometimes $500 to $8,000 per year at most institutions, although there are several offering full ride scholarships now for students to go there to be able to compete in esports. But like I mentioned, some schools offer scholarships not just for competing in esports, but working in esports for content creation, shoutcasting, broadcast production, graphic design, because that's such a big part of what the industry is. And so students are getting the opportunity to, yes, get a scholarship in a game they love to play, a game they play at a high level, to go study and get an education. But also they're getting it to work in professional development at those institutions where they're also getting that degree, but it's more than just competing in it. There are a lot of leagues here in the US. There's a lot of leagues and around the world. And they're constantly trying to figure out who's offering what games, how many schools are part of this league or that league, what kind of competition do you offer, what kind of benefits is offered for member institutions and its students. Leagues like NACE, the National Association of Collegiate Esports, and CSL, which is Collegiate Star League. They've made it easier for colleges to join those leagues and start esports on the campuses. Traditional sports that are usually under what's called the NCAA here in the US, the NCAA has decided not to get involved at this point, not until it can figure out really what's going on with these sports. And the NCAA governs all traditional sports here in the US at a high level. There's a couple of other governing bodies called the NAIA and NJCAA, but the NCAA is one that, if you've seen collegiate esports in the US, you've probably seen NCAA esports in the US. They're not currently involved in esports, so it's up to these other bodies to determine how competition is set up, how scholarships operate to an extent, and what the competition is and professional development for students. So certainly you see from those charts, it continues to grow. Schools are looking for new students to bring in competitors and people interested in esports and offering those scholarships at a higher rate year over year over year. And so the opportunities exist and they will continue to grow as we move forward. Go on to the next slide. And so I mentioned that we'll talk about some of the games. You know, this is just a snapshot of what we have found as what schools have said they plan on participating in and at what level. And so this is not the end all be all most exhaustive list out there, but it gives you an idea about what games are played at the collegiate level and what games are more popular. And the more popular games tend to have more scholarships attached to them. But it doesn't mean that these other games that are at less than 25% of schools don't offer scholarships, because we see scholarships at every institution across different games. And every school is going to offer a different amount for different games. And so if you're looking at education and looking at what games to compete in to try to get a scholarship, it's about contacting those schools. And so the most popular games are the ones that are at that green level right there, more than 75%. Rocket League, League of Legends, and Overwatch continue to be kind of the most popular games at the collegiate level. League of Legends is the most popular game in the world, so it's easy to understand why that is played at such a high level in college. But you can see down this list, there are other ones that continue to be popular across schools and to offer scholarships. Smash Brothers, Valorant, obviously a newer game, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Hearthstone, Rainbow Six Siege, Apex. I could go on and on. So it's not just like there's a scholarship for one or two games. There's scholarships and opportunities at the collegiate level across a number of different games. And so whatever game you might be thinking about, or your son or daughter or students that you might be thinking about competing in, you need to know that every school is different. Not every school offers all of these games at a high level. Here at Shenandoah, we offer 8 games at the varsity level. And so we don't offer Rainbow Six Siege or Hearthstone. We don't offer Street Fighter, sim racing. So we offer some of these, but not all of these. Other schools, like say, for example, Bay State, offers some of these, but not all of these. And so it's always about looking for what schools are offering these games that you might be interested in and what scholarship opportunities might be available. And a great point that it's not just scholarships, there's a lot of prize money attached to these as well. And so the opportunities, like I said, continue to evolve and continue to grow across competing and working in esports at the collegiate level. Okay, we can move on. And so what does recruiting look like? Recruiting is an inexact science because there is no kind of one best way to recruit students to come to a school. In fact, right now, a lot of students are seeking out the schools they want to go to and trying to talk to the coaches or directors of the schools that they want to attend in order to start that conversation. So it's almost the reverse of what a lot of traditional athletics goes through, where the coaches and directors will travel around to competitions to scout a football player or a basketball player or a baseball player, or a track and field athlete. Right now, recruiting in esports, a lot of times it's reversed, where students are reaching out to coaches or directors, or parents are reaching out to coaches or directors. That's not true across the board. Of course, some coaches and directors do get to travel, do get to recruit students, especially online. Watching gameplay online is critical for this, but also seeing them in person at recruiting events. Here in the US, there's a lot of recruiting events that continue to be put on for high school students to kind of showcase their skills to college directors and coaches in order to try to sign with them. And so those pop up more and more. Obviously with COVID, hopefully on the downswing, we're seeing more of those in person because it gives the students and coaches a chance to meet each other and talk in person about more than just, hey, the game that you play, what level you are, how long have you been playing it, but also what do you plan on studying? What do you want out of your college experience? How can we get you to that level? It's important to have those conversations. And when you have an event in person, it does make it easier. But there are plenty of online events also being done that can connect coaches with potential players for those coaches to recruit. And there are companies that are working with these recruits and connecting them directly. So they're helping those students reach out to schools that might make sense for them. Companies like eFuse, Stay Plugged In, like AVGL. These are a few here in the US, as well as a number of other ones that are starting, that are platforms for high school students or students interested in college can sign up for a portfolio, an online profile, and then connect to those coaches and directors. And as a director at a school, I can go on and I can search all the students that are signed up on these online platforms and then begin a conversation to see what their interest is in collegiate esports. And so I mentioned the LAN ones. The online ones are just as important, although LAN, sometimes you get more of a one-on-one connection. But there is no established practice yet because we're all continuing to figure out what recruiting looks like and how to sign players, especially scholarship players. And we want to sign them because what we've seen in the past is that a lot of schools will do what we call poaching of players. When a player commits to one school or another, another coach or director may sometimes inadvertently be talking to them still and get them to come to their school and decommit from their previous commitment to the school. That hasn't been great in the past, and a lot of schools get upset about that. A lot of coaches get upset for this idea of poaching. But we're starting to get things in place that safeguard schools from doing that. Because at the end of the day, we should want what's best for our students. We should want what's best for our students to get a high quality education and to have a good collegiate experience, with esports being part of that collegiate experience, not the whole collegiate experience. Because there's so much more you can get out of college than just playing video games and just being on an esports team. Can we go into the next slide, please? So while that recruiting continues to evolve, we'll continue to set things in place and continue to find ways to engage with students in a way that makes sense to them, but also make sure that we highlight the benefits that esports can offer. Because like I said, it's so much more than playing video games. If a student comes to a school expecting to use that as a mechanism to then be a professional esports gamer, that's not really what we're looking for across the board. Certainly, we want students, if they come to a school, to compete at a high level and to hopefully be a pro someday. That would be great. That's a great goal to have. But we know as college coaches and directors that students coming to a university, if they haven't made it pro by the time they get to a college or university, they might not go pro, because professional esports athletes tend to be the same age as college students, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, even up to 20 to 24. That's the kind of the prime age for high-level esports athletes for most games anyway. And at the college level, that's the same age they are going to school, getting an education. And so we're seeing former professionals come back to school, but also the students that come that aren't professionals, we want to make sure we instill those benefits that go beyond the playing. And you can see on here, I listed a number of different, what we call soft skills, a lot of times, that students can gain from competing in esports that helps prepare them for a career, whether it's in esports or not, but also prepares them for college, competing, working in, studying esports, but so much more than that. Because students that play video games and compete in esports, they don't just want to study esports, they want to study biology or chemistry or criminal justice or business. It's across the board, because right now, there is no activity in the world that is played at the level that esports and gaming is played. Maybe soccer, what we call soccer, what every other country in the world calls football. Maybe that activity. But there are very few things that come close to level of participation in current high school kids ages 13 to 17 that esports and gaming has. So it's important that when we structure programs for our students, we're teaching them these soft skills that can be applied to possible careers by the time they graduate. Social skills, communication, obviously very important. Problem-solving skills, strategic thinking, goal setting, preparation, all of these skills that are incredibly important. But not just these skills, we want to get them in a diverse setting, working with people that might not look like them, might not think like them traditionally, but now they're working with people that they may not otherwise have come in contact with. And esports is great because it attracts people from all backgrounds. It's more accessible than a lot of traditional sports are. You get men and women playing on the same teams a lot of times, which is really, really exciting to see, because that's what we need more of. We need to attract more women to gaming. We need to attract more people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities to compete in esports, because it's a place for everybody and so much can be learned from it. It's about engagement and it's about retention, because esports can help keep students attached to that educational institution. It makes it so that they're part of something bigger than themselves. They don't just go to school and feel isolated. Now they can be part of a competitive team and a group and a community that can be developed for them to learn so much more than just in-classroom learning or just on the screen competing. It really attaches them to that school in a much, much bigger way to keep them there longer, to get them that degree that is so valuable no matter what field you might end up going in. It helps students make better choices. And I know this second point that I have on here might be counterintuitive to a lot of people, that it actually helps make healthier behaviors. Because when you put an esports program in place that now has structure to it, you can use it as a platform to talk about healthy gaming habits, not gaming for just 12 hours a day straight. Obviously, that is not going to be healthy for anybody to do. But you can talk to them about practicing with intention so that you don't have to practice for 4 straight hours. You can practice for 1 hour and get more out of a 1-hour session that is intentional than 4 hours of just practicing to play the game with no intentionality. You can tell them about what you put into your body impacts how you perform. How much you sleep impacts how you perform. What your fitness level is. So by teaching them how to perform better and teaching them those healthier options and healthier gaming habits, we're instilling them healthier behaviors across the board for a healthier lifestyle down the road. So these are just some of the benefits about why esports are incredibly important at the collegiate level, even at the high school level, and that benefits students by so much more than just playing games. So by offering scholarships, offering opportunities, we can then increase the benefits and help them get an education that can serve them for a much longer time. And we can go on to the next slide here. So hopefully you all understand some of the benefits and that esports is not just playing video games, not just an isolating experience. And some of the important trends to know is that it can lead to career openings, especially internationally. It is not just in the US. Yes, the US is growing and growing rapidly, 28% increase in esports openings for the job industry. But also the UK, Canada, those are second and third respectively. We're seeing more and more jobs really across Europe, especially in the UK. We're seeing a lot of jobs here in North America, the US and Canada. And we're seeing a lot of jobs now in Asian countries begin to pop up that are in or related to the esports industry. Some of the top companies, hopefully you've heard of these. If not, these are ones that you should definitely look up. Great people work there, and certainly great career opportunities are there. Twitch, Riot. Riot is the publisher for games like League of Legends, also for Valorant. Epic, a massive, massive publisher as well for games like Fortnite, and now they own Psyonix and Rocket League. So those are opportunities that are out there. Those are the top 3 hiring companies from 2019. 2020, we got some data, but with COVID and everything going on, we kind of take that with a grain of salt. So we look back to 2019 and where the job opportunities were and who was hiring. The paid positions are increasing, and that's great for college students to hear because they want to make some money for the skill sets that they have. Of course, doing unpaid internships is something that a lot of students go through. It still gets some valuable experiential learning. But now they're starting to be able to get a position where they can get paid, which is always great. And women working in esports increased dramatically in 2019. Again, 2020, that data is a little skewed, although it did show an uptick. We have to take that with a grain of salt because of the pandemic. So the 2019 stats are still what we largely go on. So talk about career opportunities. And again, this is careers in esports. But just because you go compete in esports or study esports in college doesn't mean you need to work in that industry. There are so many industries related to esports outside of it. And we can go on to the next slide. And this should show you what some of these examples are, because it's so much more than just working as an event manager or as a broadcaster. And I know this might be a little hard to read, but this is a graphic that not only I use a lot of times, but a lot of people use to kind of illustrate some of the career opportunities that are, again, yes, esports and esports related, but not specific only to the esports industry. Because a lot of concepts can be learned in and through esports that can be applied across a number of areas, whether it's in business, whether it's in content creation, event management, the media, in entertainment, in education. There is no end to the number of career opportunities that we can help prepare students for by finding a collegiate opportunity in esports here in the US, in Canada, in Europe, around the world, that students can go to compete in, to get a scholarship. But they use that as just part of that educational experience. You put them in touch with like-minded people, developing a sense of community, developing these soft skills that can be applied across industries in the esports industry, but other tech-related fields, which are rapidly growing around the world. You're teaching them soft skills and competencies that can be applied for engaging with people from diverse backgrounds. by engaging with people that they may never have otherwise talked to before. And so the advantages that esports offers as being part of educational institutions are endless. And as we see them continue to grow here in the US and around the world, we need to understand that esports is an educational opportunity. It's a chance for us to reach students that we couldn't otherwise reach, to offer them something at the collegiate level that they may not have otherwise seen or be interested in. It's a mechanism that gets students to grow and get a high quality education that will serve them for life. As educators, we can help students be successful upon graduation. Whatever that word success means, every student has a different definition of what success is. For some of them, yes, it's a high paying job. For some of them, it's working in a certain industry like esports or like nursing. For some of them, it's just graduating with a college degree. Because for a lot of students that we have that are competing in esports, they're first generation college students. Their parents didn't go to school, their grandparents didn't go to school. But now we're able to engage them in a way and bring them into our educational settings where we can benefit them by so much more than just playing video games. There's a lot that can be done, and the scene continues to grow. And we need to continue to impact students of all ages, because I saw that question just come through. There is no age limit for esports. I could compete. I won't, because I am way too old and not good enough to compete in esports anymore. Back when I was in college, I could play Halo, and I played Halo all day long and competed in that one. But it's really, there's no age limit. There's no age limit to what we can do. There's no limit at all to what we can do to offer this opportunity for students. And that's how we have to look at esports, as an educational opportunity. And so I really wanted to thank you all for letting me talk today just about some of the opportunities, some of what's going on in collegiate esports. But there's so much more going on, and it continues to grow, and so many high quality institutions exist to help benefit students for success in their career and their life. And so I do want to open it up to questions. Catherine, I'm not sure how we want to handle questions, if we want to read them out or just have them in chat, but happy to engage in any questions anybody might have to be able to make sure that I address any specific things that you want to hear more about.
Hey, thank you so much. First, I want to say thank you, Joey. Thank you so much. I think I met Dr. G several years ago. I can't even remember in what environment we met in now. There's so many circles that we kind of intersect on. But I want to thank you for being here, not just because of the work you do in curriculum development and, and really growing your students, but something that you and I talk about quite often, is really diversity, equity, and inclusion in the space. Yes. And I really applaud you for your work. Same reason why, I've invited Dr. Emerson and Brian from Bay State here as well, because we all kind of have the same song sheet, right? That we want to make sure that this space is supportive and safe and fun, really. And we use this, like we use traditional sports to get our kids, at the end of the day, I'm a mom, okay, with college students. So I really just want them to get a job. So at the end, that's all of us, we have the same goal at the end of the road. Okay, so I think there's a couple of things here. How can my child take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of the things that you can do are signing up for online profiles with some of the companies that help connect students to colleges and universities. That's one way that they can engage and take advantage of this opportunity, because that will connect them with a lot of schools. Another one is just start reaching out to schools. There's a database on websites about what schools offer esports opportunities. If you go to the NACE, National Association of Collegiate Esports website, they will show you all the different schools that offer esports, and you can start engaging and emailing coaches or directors. People like Brian at Bay State, you can start engaging in those conversations to talk about what opportunities that school might offer, or this school or that school. Because like I said, every school is going to be different. And so for your child to take advantage of these opportunities, it's about doing your work online. And a lot of it can be done online. There's no need to travel initially. Start conversations, emailing coaches, emailing directors, find those databases, create online profiles so you're connected to schools. Those are great. Your child can also stream themselves. If with your permission and under your guidance, they can get online and stream themselves playing video games on Twitch, or creating content and posting on YouTube, creating profiles there, engaging in conversations through social media. Twitter, Instagram, those are huge. TikTok, yeah, that's big too. I don't engage in TikTok at all. My students run our social media because I don't understand TikTok whatsoever. I don't even have Instagram downloaded. I'll tweet every once in a while. But engaging in conversation through social media, as well as Twitch and YouTube, is a way to just get their name out there, to get their gameplay out there, and to start connecting with people in the industry. And in this industry, a lot of it is word of mouth. People will spread the word. Hey, did you see that video or this video? Upload this link, share this with you. And so coaches and directors, we talk to each other a lot. Sometimes it's like, maybe I won't talk too much because I really want that student to come to my school. But at the end of the day, as educators, we want what's best for all students. And so for your child to take advantage of an opportunity, I think it's creating online profiles. I think it's engaging in conversations with coaches and directors and get them streaming as appropriate on either Twitch or YouTube so that their gameplay is out there and coaches and directors can then evaluate it and see how they are to begin talking about college opportunities.
Yes, and I think just as a parent, I just want to say that I agree completely with what Joey has said. The only thing is just be cautious. When you put your name out there, you use your gamer name. You don't ever tell anybody where you live. But some of the things I think that we're going to talk about more on the panel, because I think as parents, when I first started this journey, and I'll talk about that during my section, I didn't really understand esports, and I didn't really understand all the social media and how that can really impact a child and how they can find you. I used to hate Discord. I used to say, oh my God, another thing to learn. And I have learned to really embrace Discord, because that's one way you can communicate without someone knowing who you are, right? And also, you share your Discord name. Believe me, you're trying to find someone on Discord randomly is very difficult. And so I do believe that that's a good way to communicate for kids, and that's where they live anyway. I think that someone had said that, okay, so if someone so we have found, Joey, I talk about this all the time, that a lot of STEM kids are also gamers. And so one of the questions was, her son loves robotic engineering, and how does that correlate, and can they kind of use the two together maybe?
I think you're exactly right that we do a lot of times see that people that are interested in STEM education are also interested in gaming and esports. That doesn't mean that they have to be. Obviously there are some that are interested in one or the other. But, a lot of students, and actually had a student here last week, a recruit that was in a lot of robotics competitions at the high school and collegiate level. He also loves esports. He loves the gaming side, but even more than that, he loves the technology that's involved. And so, like I said, you don't have to be a serious gamer competitor to be involved in the program. If you want to be involved in robotics or engineering, you can work on things like broadcast production and other areas that are more related to the esports industry, as opposed to just competing on a team. So yeah, a lot of people, when they're interested in STEM education, they're also interested in gaming and esports, but things associated with it, like the broadcasting, like the game design, even virtual reality. We tap into virtual reality and augmented reality a lot here on our campus at Shenandoah, because a lot of the students, there's just a lot of correlation and crossover because they're like-minded and they're interested in a lot of the same ideas. And so while they might not be directly interested in competing on a game for a scholarship, like I said, there are scholarships offered across different parts of esports beyond just the competitive side. So will he be able to achieve his dream? I certainly hope so. I think there is a place for every student to fuel their dream, to help get to where they want to be. It's about doing the homework to see what institution might offer them the best opportunity to help achieve that dream. What's going to help set them up for that path of success? And that's not an easy answer. And it's going to take some time to research the schools that might offer esports or offer engineering or offer robotics in a way that might be in a bigger way than that school over here or this school over there. So every school has different opportunities. I think, yes, your son has an opportunity to achieve that dream, whether it's in the US or anywhere else. There are schools and opportunities out there. It's about trying to find them and engage in people that can help get them to that path of success, whether it's through gaming or not, whether it's through a scholarship or not. But the opportunities are there. And certainly engaging with people that enjoy gaming and things related to gaming are very like-minded. And you'll find that a lot of people are interested in robotics or engineering or AR, VR that also enjoy gaming and esports. And so it's about developing that wider community of like-minded individuals that can just share thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, Joey, thank you for saying that. One of the things that you kind of talked about in your talk earlier was that you find one thing, right? You find your people, and that connected with that school and the chance of you completing the education and being happier and have a support system in that community is much higher. And I think that's exactly right. Whether your son, goes to an engineering school and is not on the esports team, but it's part of the esports community, I think it's huge. I think that would give him, and also as a parent, I feel much safer sending my kid off to distant land for college at 18, knowing, right, that he or she has a community that supports them.
Yeah.
And being on a team is really great because someone like you is there to watch over them. There's staff there. We talk about nutrition, we talk about, gaming, but responsibly and with intention and so on. So I think that whole community and structure and support that Dana's going to talk about later is really critical.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Right. And then I also wanted to ask, talk about Nigerian students, what they can do. So I think that's something that Tulu and I are going to talk about later on as well, is that, what we're here to do is really bring people like Dr. G here, like Dr. Emerson, like Brian, to have you answer questions, but really talk about what our services are, and as a partnership, how we can help you bring these opportunities to students in Nigeria. And also really, there's got to be a pathway, so how to implement esports in high school. I mean, in the US, we do esports in middle school even to get that pathway going. And so that students know what to do and understand what the game is like and understand what the industry and what the community is like.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime I can be a part of that conversation, I want to help out. While I'm not directly connected to Nigeria, obviously, I want to work more there. I have such a passion to show students around the world what esports can do for them, to help them find success. And I mentioned my student that was here just last week, and he's starting this semester. His kind of idea, his project, his life goal is to help bring esports to Africa, across the continent. And so in Nigeria, the things you can do are at the kind of the grassroots level. Get started, get gaming, keep gaming, but do it in a healthy way. Develop community, develop connections. Start broadcasting yourself, as Catherine said, in an appropriate and safe way, because it is online. You've got to be careful about how you're broadcasting and promoting yourself and what information you're sharing. And so be careful with it, but it's still there. It can be a very, very valuable and educational tool if done the right way. But you've got to just get started. The culture of an acceptance of gaming and esports is continuing to evolve and grow. And so the more that you can show value to what you do, the more you can show the community of people that come together in and through gaming, the better off you're going to be going forward. And so what can Nigerian students do? Get started, keep gaming, develop community, get together to help start programs from that bottom level. Build it from the ground up, because what administrators and educators see and what they want to do is provide opportunities where there is student interest. If they don't know that students are interested, it's hard to provide opportunities. But when they see students getting involved and getting together and taking initiative, taking leadership, administrators and educators will take note of that and help fuel that as best that we can, because we want to help grow those opportunities, provide that support and structure for students. But showing that interest, showing that initiative will go a long way in helping you get off the ground and going.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's all the questions we have today. And I want to say that if you contact me directly, I can always share Joey's contact information with you as well. I know that I bug him all the time, and he does answer. So he's not just saying that. He's a wealth of information and has been in the industry for a long time. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thank you. And please, Catherine, please feel free to share my information, whether it's Discord info, email info, whatever it is. Happy to have any conversation I can, because we're in this together. We want to do what's best and help grow the space. It continues to evolve. The opportunities are there. We just got to help students find those opportunities to help them grow. So again, thank you all for being here. I applaud you, because this is the first step to getting started. And getting started is so important. We could talk all day long, but until you get started, you don't really know how it's going to go and how you can help students out the best. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And please let me know if I can ever help with anything. I'm here, I'm with you, and let's find opportunities for students.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you all.
Okay, Tulu, let's continue. So our next part of the presentation will be on our panel. We have two panel members with us today, and while Tulu's trying to find that slide, because I know that there's a huge delay in what it looks like he's not working on it, but he really is. So we have two panel members with us today who's going to share their experiences with us and lessons learned in implementing an esports program. We're going to talk about high school implementation in particular, specifically. We'll talk about community engagement, the pathway from high school to college, and then at the end, we'll also talk about preparing for college recruitment and what that looks like. Okay. Next slide. We're almost there. Okay, perfect. Okay, next slide. So just a little bit about myself to start out with. I am the founder of College and Career Pathways. I'm an engineer by training, and I kind of fell into esports in a really haphazard kind of way. I was responsible for developing a 4-year engineering program. They asked me to be a team manager. And so I didn't even know what esports was at the time. But to give you a little background on myself first, I am a mother. I have 2 kids in college right now, so this is very appropriate timing for me. My son played traditional American football in college, so I understand the recruitment process, how stressful that can be. It's very exciting, but at the same time, quite confusing. Because a lot of times, we don't know who, like Joey said earlier, which college, how does that work? One of the things that we do really well is we match up the student with the college and vice versa. I think at the end of the day, it's not how many kids you place in a college that counts, but really how many kids were able to graduate and get a job. Because I think all of us on this panel understands and truly believes that the end goal, it's not playing pro, it's not getting onto a college campus, it's not wearing that jersey. The end goal is getting a career. Okay, and so a couple other things I want to talk about, I want to emphasize again, is that sense of community. When my son went to college, I sent him across the country. I didn't send him across the world. So, but it still was stressful, right? He was 18 years old. He was going to his college by himself. I wasn't sure how he's going to be, all the things that mother worries about. And being on a team really helped. There were people like Joey, a coach to be on staff. There was someone to help talk about practice, kind of engage and kind of make sure that path was going to be a smooth one. So in any case, what I'm saying is that esports is not just a great way to get scholarship and so on, but it's a great community to be part of. Okay, next slide. And just my esports background specifically, like I said before, I was actually teaching high school engineering. I was developing a 4-year pathway and making sure that my engineering classes were college credit worthy as well, and there was dual enrollment and so on. And during that process, they asked me to be a team manager for esports. And I thought it was just like robotics, or like debate, which I was already coaching. How hard could it be? It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, because first of all, I didn't know what League of Legends was. I had to learn about the game. I had to learn about tryouts and what does that mean? How do we hold practices? How do we find scrimmages? But at the end of all this, what really got my attention was that one of my students who, to be quite honest, he was a pretty high ranked League of Legends player. But at the beginning of the semester, he told me, you know what, I got this because I don't even have to come to school. I'm going to graduate, so I'll just come to practice. And believe it or not, esports changed his thinking. It changed his goals, because he couldn't be on campus to do practice if he didn't come to class. So instead of not going to school and just getting his GED and going on his merry way, he actually finished his his high school senior year with good enough grades that he got recruited. He went to a small little liberal arts school. They gave him 75% off room and board, and I was sold. I was down. I was like, okay, whatever this takes, this is a real thing. It's not just talk. I have to admit, I was one of those parents that used to tell my son and my daughter, stop playing video games, go outside, play ball, or go study, go read a book, So I'm eating my words now, of course, so they remind me all the time. But esports really, truly is a viable tool and a viable option to getting your son or your daughter through to college, through to a career. Okay. Through that recruiting process, I learned about what that recruitment looks like Joey says. It's funny, he said poaching. I think that's probably more common now as esports has grown and more schools are doing esports, over 300 schools in varsity esports alone, for example, across the nation. So there are a lot of things as parents for us to figure out. And I think that we're here to help you do that. Okay. Okay, next slide. Let's talk to our first panel member. First up is Dr. David Emerson. She's a Dean of Instruction at Coastline College. And I want to just give some of her highlights of her background. She has a huge background that I can't really go through, in one session. Next slide, please. But she is a Dean of Instruction, of course. She's recognized and honored by the NAACP for her commitment to diversity, student engagement, and in higher education. Like we said before, that's really something that all three of us really feel very passionate about. Continue to facilitate, consult, and coach community and higher education organizations in communication competency, leadership, diversity, equity, inclusion work, as well as goal attainment. Core belief, this is really important to us, is that she believes that we all need someone in our corner, on our team, that will help and support us and be so that we can be the most successful that we can be. So Dr. Emerson, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I sound so good when you say that, Catherine. Thank you so much.
One of the things that you have said that I really bought into, and I thought, okay, you're my mentor, which is 90% of success is support. And I think that is truly the case. They say that in high school, which is where my world is, that, one friend, right, is all you need to get through high school.
Yeah. And it's absolutely true. Even, as we're talking about now. And so my background isn't necessarily gaming like Catherine. I don't know much about gaming, but what I do know is curriculum and program development to help students harness their skills and move them through the transition to their academic and career goals. And so the only way to really attain all of that is with support. You cannot do it by yourself. And so, yes, 98% of success is support. And we all need a team of successful people to help us move along. So yeah, that is it.
Well, thank you for your time. I know you've come here on a favor because you're on vacation, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question to you is that, you're probably one of the most passionate people I've met in administration as for esports. Tell us why you come to this conclusion. Why is esports important to you and your community?
Yeah, I think it's important because it is innovative and it's accessible. One of the things that I was really passionate about when I even heard about esports was, would this be something that is accessible to every student that is served by my college? Meaning, women, men, my students whose English skills aren't necessarily up to par with native speakers, my students that may have cognitive disabilities or maybe even physical disabilities. And once I learned that this was an industry, an ecosystem really, that was available to everyone, that all students can gain access to it, I thought this is exactly where we need to be. Because what we know about higher education and traditional career pathways is that they have come to a halt. And some of them are actually even crumbling away. And so the traditional way of doing things is no longer viable. And the pandemic definitely demonstrated this for all of us. And so I really wanted to make sure that as we move forward in higher education, that we are giving students an opportunity to be on a pathway that supports not only their interests, but also gives them direction into an industry that is just exploding all over the place. And that is where the future is going to be. It's combining those interests, your skills, and then professionalism to get into the industry so that you can have a career. And so that is all that I want. That's all that I see from my perspective as an administrator. And this is what I know is what's going to move students forward. They can't get stuck anymore chasing after a career pathway that doesn't allow them to live their life when they reach certification or a degree.
Right, absolutely. And also at Coastline, I know that you have a lot of, you do a lot of work in pathway from high school to college. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, so we do partner, as a lot of colleges do, we partner with high schools, but we also partner with middle schools. And so what we try to do is make sure that from middle school, mostly 8th grade, that the students and their parents understand that at least in California, students can start taking college classes when they're in the 9th grade. So the sooner that they're introduced to college, the more successful they will be as they enter that pathway and reach completion. And so with our middle schoolers, we have them take a class or really participate in a workshop called College Readiness, really kind of testing their skills and introducing them to a college environment. And with that, then we also have our high school partnerships who, high school students are deeply, deeply interested in esports and everything else that comes with that. And so we know that if we can connect with their program to our program, it is a direct pathway. And then our programs then can connect to the university programs. So it really is defining a very clear pathway that is illuminated for students and their parents all the way from middle school going into the university. And also giving them the parameters of understanding why it's important that at each of those places, the students can touch this program, because there are opportunities, but sometimes there are setbacks. Students can't always make it all the way through to college. To the university, but that doesn't mean that they can't participate in this at the community college level and still gain a certificate that will still allow them to enter into the ecosystem for workforce development and be part of the workforce in esports. So this is exactly what we do. We do it by clubs, we do it by curriculum development, we do it by partnerships, we do it with partnerships with community organizations and just schools all around in our district.
Perfect. Over 25% of our attendees today are administrators. So can you give them some advice on, when they bring it back to their school, they may not be embraced. So
True.
Can you give some advice on how to handle that?
Yeah, at first I would say, if this is your passion, don't waver. You're not the only one, and there is a community of support for you as well. And I think that is where leadership in higher education tends to waver. They're not exactly sure if this is something real and viable that can stand up on its own within an academic or education environment. That's one. So don't waver from your passion. Number two is talk to people that do have that passion, see how they've developed their programs. For us, we developed what we call the 3C model. We weren't so interested in making sure that students were professional gamers. What we wanted to do was make sure that they understood the skills needed to work in the industry. So for us, the first C was a club. Let's just find the students who are interested, low stakes. And so bring them into the club scene. This is what they want to do. And with the club, they're building community, they're building support. And then we work with faculty to build out some of our curriculum. The pathway that we took to begin with was non-credit, so that there's nothing lost, meaning that students can come and take the class. They don't have to pay for it, but they get to gain the interest. And with that interest, then they're building more. And so the second half of the curriculum then is the credit side. So this is where we're looking at state recognized certificates and degrees. And so we really look at business and business administration as a way to really serve up esports in terms of the ecosystem that is more than just professional game playing. And then from there, we started thinking about competition. So competitions aren't our first priority. It is community and curriculum. Those are our first priorities. Competition can come, and we support that. But what we want students to know is our job isn't to create a professional gamer. Our job is to create professionals in the industry.
Right, absolutely. And half of our attendees are parents who are interested. So can you share with some of the insights that, I know you talk to a lot of parents about esports all the time. Can you give some advice to them as well?
Yeah, I would definitely say that because this is a new industry, it may feel like this isn't real. And I want to say this is absolutely real. And as we learned earlier in the keynote presentation, there are a lot of skills that are attached to this. One thing I like to tell people, particularly parents and other people in higher education, is that when we think of esports, we think of it as like the National Football League. very few people in the National Football League are actually players. But when you take a step back and you look at the entire industry, there are thousands upon thousands of people that are needed to hold up that industry. So your child could have an interest in football, so to speak, American football. They could want to be a quarterback. The chances of them getting there, not so much, but the chances of them getting one of those thousands and thousands of positions that hold up that entire industry, very good. It is very good for them. So if your student wants to game, that's fine. They are gaining those human skills that every single employer says that they are looking for when people enter the workforce. That is completely fine. And also, just pay attention to know that we, meaning educators, are going to enhance those skills for your student so that they can successfully move through that pathway and walk into the industry. This is what we want to do. It's not a harmful thing. It's a new thing, and new things bring about fear until they have been engaged and exposed. And once that happens, they become the norm. Work with us. We promise we're not out to harm your students. We are there to really support them and help them work in a fashion that, again, feeds their interest, but will also give them a career.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of answered this already, but what do you foresee what is going to happen, of course, at Coastline and within the community college, right, in the next 5 years?
Oh, yeah, I think this is going to be standard. I think when we talk about esports as a sport, we're going to see this as a standard like football, basketball, baseball, at least in American institutions. And we will also see that this will be a workforce development opportunity within multiple institutions as well. And so, for example, at Coastline, we're building a lab for students to come and test their skills and build their portfolios. So within this lab, of course, students can put on events, and they then need to be aware of all of those components that are necessary to make that event successful. But the event could also attract gamers. And so then this is how students will get this experience that they need to walk into the workforce. And so this is what I see is happening. I see multiple areas of different disciplines finding that they can develop curriculum or expand curriculum that they already have that supports what is happening in this industry. For example, the health industry, nutrition, coaching, psychology, sociology, all of those can find a way to connect their curriculum to making sure that the workforce is developed for this ecosystem. So this is exactly what I see. I see more and more programs, more and more degrees, more and more certificates that are preparing people, students, to move into the workforce or to the esports ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I want to let everybody know that you'll be here to the end of the panel if you have any more questions for you later on. But of course, any questions during the panel, please put them in the chat. One of the things I think Dr. G didn't really talk about because he's so humble is that Shenandoah has one of the premier degrees, like as you talked about, in the country. And so you're right. I think that the next 5 years we'll see a lot more of that, and kind of that curriculum gel out as well, and as that first wave of students go out there and get jobs and so on.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Emerson. Next up, we have Brian Hummel. So Brian is with Bay State College on the East Coast of our country. He's a director of esports there, among many other things. I just want to say that I met Brian many years ago, actually now, way before COVID. And what struck me was that as a coach, I'm a teacher, right? So I'm always interested in interaction between students and their coaches or students and their teachers. And one of the things that really struck me with Brian was that he had a really great relationship with his team. I met him at an event. It was an in-person event in Boston that we're having for esports. And he came with his players, and just the way they engaged and how he led them really struck me. And so that's the reason why Brian and I have now been in communication and working together for several years. Okay, so a little bit of background on Brian real quickly. He's been competitive and professional gaming for more than 10 years. He's top 1% in Halo, Call of Duty, Destiny, PUBG, and Fortnite. In 2014, he launched a web-based website helping others advance game proficiency, employing more than 40 professional gamers in 3 years. He has grown the esports communities in many colleges across the country. Like I said before, he's the director of esports currently at Bay State College. He's also interim director of esports at Colorado State. And he's also adjunct professor of esports management at Emerson College as well. And one of the things that also strike me about Brian is that he's very interested in, helping the students, especially at Emerson, build that portfolio that Dr. Emerson was talking about before, because that's really truly how you get competitive edge over the next person, right? That, okay, you come out, you have the curriculum, you have some interest and a passion for esports, but it's really showing, your employer what you can do in the space that really counts. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
So long.
It's been a while.
I know. Okay, next slide. We have some questions for you, but so just, since you're a coach, right? And over half of our attendees today are parents. We have a quarter of the students and then a quarter, college administrators, high school administrators, sorry. So I want to maybe start a little bit, go step one back and say, can you talk to us about your experience when you were a professional gamer and what that was like?
Sure. So, growing up, I was always one of the better gamers in my town, and, everybody would always, challenge me to these one-on-ones and things like that. So, that's how I started realizing that I was actually pretty good at this thing. And then, my experience as a professional, I was never signed to a tier 1 organization, what you'd consider in the United States, people that are making millions and millions of dollars. I was always that tier 2, right below them, on that verge, could have been there, but I didn't make it. But it was really fun. It was a lot of hours, a lot of work. I was in college. My biggest shot at being professional was when I started my company in my dorm room with my college roommate. It was for a game called Destiny. It wasn't even a competitive game at the time, but I saw how much money there was in it. And, people were paying my players about $100 an hour just to play with them. So I saw this as a big market opportunity. I was super broke in college, as almost every other student is, because it definitely hits the pockets. And this was a way for me to make money doing what I loved and, kind of pay for my college. So, I started this company, like I said, with my college roommate. We ran this for 3 years. It was all based around coaching other players. You could consider us boosters, but we weren't boosting their accounts or anything like that. It was really just to help them get better at the game that they loved. And, my only stint at a professional signed contract was in PUBG. It's a battle royale. I got signed to a European team because there was an invitational in Germany that was about to happen, and our team was actually 1 point away from qualifying to go to Germany, unfortunately. So I never made it there, but the one thing that happens, like if you have any students here at your schools that are really good at video games and they get signed, you should kind of learn about what contract negotiations look like, and is this contract fair? Is this person being locked in for no money, but there's a bunch of things that go into it. So if your students are looking into this, especially for FIFA, I know FIFA is a very big game in Nigeria right now. I believe it's the #1 game, and you can go professional in FIFA. There are organizations that will sign you, and if that's the case, it's the way you get noticed for these types of things is your social media appearance. Like Dr. G was saying earlier, your Twitch, streaming, Facebook. I believe Facebook's bigger in Nigeria than Twitch is. There's not really many Twitch streamers, but if you start streaming on Facebook, you can get noticed by these professional organizations. You can start making money doing this. So, my views of trying to become a professional is build your portfolio as a player, as a professional in what you're doing, stream it, show people that you've got this type of personality where you can make it, and dedicate your time to it. You're going to have to dedicate 3 to 4 hours a day to do this. So that's kind of my experience as a professional, what my background and, what I would say to do. But, if you make it, it's definitely a very big light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, but the chances are low, right? I mean,
Very
it's
low.
like, yeah, it's like, being a professional basketball player in the US. So let's talk about international recruiting for your college. What's the process like? And well, first of all, I guess, do you recruit, accept international students? And if you do, what's the process like?
Sure. So yeah, we definitely take international students. We actually just so that it's a long process for international students to get into the US. It's going to take probably about 2 months of time to get everything, nailed in. So I would start early on the process. What you're going to have to do is get a visa. That's the first thing is get accepted to the college. So you're going to apply. If your transcripts are not on a 4.0 GPA scale and it's like a 1 through 10 or a different type of numerical, you're probably going to have to get them evaluated by an outside company unless that college specifically evaluates them. So you're looking at maybe $100 worth of money to spend on these transcript evaluations. Once we get those in, you get accepted. It's a conditional acceptance pending your approval for a visa. So, the visa process can be a pain. It differs country to country. Right now, Canada's the hardest country for me to work with for whatever reason. I actually had one student come from Africa this past year before COVID. It took him 28 days to get the visa. It was super quick. So that process was a lot easier for him. But what you're going to have to do is the I-20 essentially is what our school would send to you. And it says, hey, you've got a $15,000 scholarship. The cost of attendance here is $20,000, and then living fees are about $9,000. It would need you to show about $15,000 to $20,000 in a bank account, stocks, lines of credit, however you may be able to get this money, a loan, to prove to the U.S. Embassy and your embassy or your government that you would have enough money to be able to live here, essentially, for the remainder of your time. That's usually the biggest obstacle for students. It's not many people just have $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 USD sitting around. So there's ways around it. There's international loans, there's scholarships, there's grants, there's plenty of opportunities. I believe the actual amount is 1.5 times the amount that it costs for your attendance, that you have to provide. But then after that, after you get the visa, it's about booking your flight to get here, getting you down here and, really picking you up from the airport, showing you what it's like to be here. And, it's definitely a huge different cultural experience than, where most students are coming from. I mean, the US is a completely different country than Canada, than any other country. Every country's different. So, expect to be in a little bit of a culture shock. It's not going to be like home. And, but there is also other opportunities for international students. You don't have to come to the United States to get an education here. There's online portions for colleges. You can still get scholarships for esports being an online student. And a lot of the times, online college is significantly cheaper than attending in person because of dorm room costs, all these other variables that come into play. So, I will say explore both options, see what's most affordable for you, and give it a shot. Once you get your transcripts evaluated by these other companies, start sending them out to colleges for free. See if you get accepted, and see what the process is like.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, and especially about online portion, right? Because I think that's something that both you and Dr. Emerson have in common with your colleges is that there's an online part of that as well. So for cost reasons, and maybe just maybe start the first 2 years of college that way, and then do the second 2 years in person and so on.
So I just want to say just about that with online and international students, just make sure that your program or your government will support you doing online classes. Sometimes that gets a little tricky, but during the pandemic, we did see a little easing of that. And so hopefully that will continue. And again, like Brian was saying, that it just provides a different opportunity for you to continue or start your education in the States if that's what you want to do, and follow an esports program.
Right. Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing that. And one thing I want to say, Brian kind of talked about a little bit about being picked up at the airport. Okay, when you're part of the esports team, okay, that is nothing like being a regular student, let me tell you. Okay, because if you're not on a team, no one picks you from the airport. So I think he was a little bit, he didn't stress that quite enough. I think you're treated like a rock star if you get onto a team in college. That helps a lot, I think, for that integration portion of it.
Especially for our college. I mean, we don't have traditional sports. So the second you get here as one of our esports recruits, you're the superstar. You're walking around, you feel like, the center fielder for your football team. So it's pretty cool.
Right. Yes. Right. Okay. So quickly, I know we're running a little short on time right now. I know we talked about this before, Brian. You also recruit for other roles, right? And not just player. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go through this quickly, but I recruit for everything. I'm trying to create a whole ecosystem for us specifically, and I know other colleges are, but we'll give scholarships for journalist roles in the esports, production, team managers, casters. I mean, literally any type of job that you could have in the esports industry, we're trying to create, and we want you if that's what you're interested in. So say you're a huge accounting nerd and you love to run numbers and crank that type of stuff. I'll get you in as our data analyst or our budgeting counselor, and you'll have a scholarship for that. That saves me money and time and everything. So I'm going to give you a scholarship to do that. There is so many different things that my college specifically is doing that some others won't, but I'd say out of these 300 colleges there's probably about 100 that would do the same. And it's all about asking that question. Maybe they don't have that right now, but if you ask them and say you're interested in it, that's how it will work.
But it was one of the reasons why I wanted you here today, Brian, really is because, besides the fact that you're a nice guy, but really is because your school really supports the ecosystem. And I know we talked about this quite a bit before, in that, it's not just you had to be highly ranked, that's all we care about, or that you have to have this, whatever, in-game hours. So can you tell us what you're looking for, in really shortly, quickly, in a player?
Sure. I mean, I'm just looking for dedication, somebody that wants to be there, somebody that doesn't have an ego. I just need people that are all here, ready, willing, and able to learn. The second there's a bad leaf in the bunch, they're definitely targeted out. People don't want to be around that type of person. So, if from my program specifically, it's you come in with a good attitude, you get treated really well. As long as you don't message me saying, yo, this, that, just be super respectful. Say, hey, Brian, or hey, coach, like, I'd love to have a call with you. Not, yo, what's up? You got some time? Like it's just do that demeanor. Like, just be respectful. That's all I look for.
And I have to say, as a parent, that's what I want my kid to learn, right? So this is another reason why having your son or daughter be part of an esports team really truly helps them with those life skills that Dr. Emerson talked about before. Not just critical thinking, competitiveness, and teamwork and so on, but really how to be, how to behave and how to speak to somebody, because that's what those are skills you're going to take with you to your work environment.
Exactly.
So a couple of quick questions, right, that a lot of parents always ask, well, first of all, like, what game should my kid play? And should we get a private coach, if we can afford it? And how much time should they play a day? Like, should be all day, all night? Or, what's your opinion on those?
Sure. I guess it really depends on what game you should play. Because for me, I know Joey had that list of all those games. I do offer all those games, and I do have a team for all of those. It depends on what you want to do and where you want to go to school. The three biggest games in college that you will almost guaranteed get a scholarship at if you're somewhat decent is League of Legends, Overwatch, and Rocket League. Schools that are popping up now, you're seeing some Madden scholarships, you're seeing some FIFA and some Fortnite scholarships. You're not really seeing much for Hearthstone. There's about 5 or 6 that will give you them. Valorant is the next big thing too, that I see surpassing League of Legends within the next 5 years. If FIFA is the biggest game for Nigeria, and that's what you can be the best at, just grind that out. And you don't need to play more than 4 hours a day to be good. I'd say 4 hours is the maximum where it's efficient, where you're actually still obtaining that skill that you've practiced. And there's been a million studies on, these gamers, they play 12 to 15 hours a day. And, after hour 1 or 2, they're not learning anything. They're actually getting significantly worse. what we did for internal studies on our players is 4 hours was the maximum that they could compete at their highest level, and then everything started to die down. So I would say no more than 4 hours. Private coaching you can do, but there's really not many good coaches out there yet that are easily accessible. The decent ones would be from like Pro Guides or Gamer Sensei, but you're going to be spending about $25 an hour to use their service. And you just got to do your research on them. There's thousands of different coaches out there that you can, try to have help you out. But yeah.
So Brian, do you think, as a high school player, right, do you think it's critical that they need to have have a private coach?
No, I don't. As a high school player, I mean, if you have a high school esports team, I think there should be somebody that is a mentor to those players. They don't necessarily need to teach them the skills, but somebody that can be that person in there, monitoring, saying like, hey, you shouldn't have said that. Basically just the mentor, the lifestyle coach. I like to call esports coaches at the tier 2, tier 3 level more of life coaches than actual in-game coaches, because how am I going to teach a bunch of top 100 players in the world how to play the game that they're the best at? There's only 50 other people that could do that, in my opinion. So that's what my opinion on coaching for esports is right now.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful, because that's a really common question. We have a question that says, what advice would you give the high school staff at esports club? So I'll take that, because that's what I've done several times already. And that really is, I think a lot of people here on the panel have talked about engaging your students and just forming that club and seeing what the interests are. And I think let the students drive where this train's going to go, because once you set up that club and you have life coaches or coaching or coordinators for your esports program, you're going to find then you start to slowly put some structure behind your community, and you'll find that students themselves will want to lead a lot of it, and they'll come and tell you if they want to be casters, if they want to be producers, and players and so on. But just having that community and letting students know that you have a gaming community, you'll be surprised how fast that's going to grow and what kind of interest you're going to get. I think statistically, 66% of students between, I think it was age of like 8 to 18 or something like that, are gamers, self-identify as gamers. So I would not be surprised if you find that once you just open the door and say that we have an esports program, that kids come running.
Yeah, I agree on that too. And there is also a lot of nonprofit organizations that if you reach out and say, hey, we're trying to set up this esports program at our school, they will help you for free. They will give you materials, coaches, things like that. One that comes to mind for me right now that I just had a conversation with is called NASIF. I will type it in the chat. They have a bunch of sister branches that set up things, and it's completely free of charge for the students. Right now, they're US dominated, but if somebody from Nigeria is reaching out saying, hey, we want to start up esports, I don't see why they wouldn't help. So
right.
It's all about building it everywhere.
And that's who actually in my high school in California we have used as well. And so they do give some tools. They are a good resource. They don't handhold, they don't come into your school and help you with the consulting and launching part of it, but they do give you quite a few resources. And I'll be happy to share those with everybody later on as well. Okay. Any other questions for our panel today? Of course, we'll always, if you contact me, I'll also give you their contact information as well, if you want to reach out to them individually. Okay. The next thing we have is that we do have a video coming up from a special guest.
So one last thing I want to add before I sign off, but if you're not familiar with Discord and your students aren't familiar with Discord, get them familiarized in what Discord is and get them in these communities, because that's how they're going to get noticed at US colleges right now for esports. That's the last thing I wanted to add.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I can't hear Tulu. Anybody else here? Can you hear Brian? No? Okay.
and scaling and educating. Hi, my name is Bukola Akingbade, and I'm the founder and CEO of Kucheza Gaming. Kucheza Gaming is an Africa-focused games and esports company for 6 to 18-year-olds, so primary and secondary schools. I'm also the vice chairperson for Lagos State Esports Association. This is the official association for esports in Lagos State. And we're proud to be championing the cause of driving awareness and scaling and educating parents, people, youths about the importance and significance of esports as a force for youth development and empowerment. So how did I get into esports? I'm a mom. I like to start by telling that story. I'm a mom. I have 3 amazing kids, a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And a lot of what I know today is by my observation of their behavior and their changing behavior over time. When they were much younger, I observed that they stopped watching a lot of TV, in the time that they had and the time they're given online. They prefer to watch YouTube and they watch other people playing games. There was a fascination I had to try to understand. What do you mean you're watching other people playing games? So I took an interest and I got really fascinated by that, started researching into the games industry and the world of esports globally. And to my surprise, esports is a massive, massive industry across the world. The games industry specifically is over $160 billion industry. It's bigger than the music industry. It's bigger than the movie industry. And so, and beyond that also, it captures the side of sports and esports, and also the side of creativity and the creative industry. So it's kind of like a blend of both, right? I find esports quite fascinating. As in Kucheza, we have different pillars that we do with schools. So one core pillar is esports, and I'll get into that in a minute. We have game development and design, and then we have the computing curriculum. Specifically for the esports side, we run a network of schools, school esports leagues, we run tournaments, and then we started piloting esports clubs in certain schools. Now, for me, I think as a parent, I understand the notion, of course, that gaming or playing, it takes away kids from studying. I think is a major perception that we all have as a parent. I completely understand it. But similar, like what I found in terms of working with kids and in terms of my own kids specifically, is that the kids will still find time to play, even if it's in the time that they're given by parents to play. But the point being, like any other sports, if they choose to participate in esports, it also allows them the opportunity to socialize with other kids, to build things like teamwork, to build things like strategy, understanding, mapping out, and kind of laying the groundwork for how to achieve a task together as a unit, learning IT skills, because I find personally that the kids that are more involved in esports know a lot more about their devices and IT than even their computing teachers in school. Like it is completely remarkable that when the skills or the passion of a child is what is channeled, they flourish. You see that in their understanding of computing. You see that in the application of that knowledge as well. It's what we're seeing across board, across our esports programs. But for us specifically, I think as a parent, what is important to me around esports here is that we create a safe environment for kids to be able to play together in a healthy way. Also, things around, we're very particular about age appropriate games. We don't, we have kids from 6 to 18. The games that we choose and the ages that participate in those games are the ages that are appropriate for those games. And I think that is extremely important. But the main thing also is to kind of think about or to read research that exists around, more empirical kind of research that exists around the importance of esports, kind of like any other sports, around the importance of, in terms of youth development, right? You find that when kids participate in esports in schools, a few things that you start to notice. Of course, they build more friendships. That's quite important. They're a lot more strategic. They understand how to play together. The teamwork element becomes stronger. There's a lot more camaraderie. But I think more importantly, statistically, they found that children who play esports, especially before before year nines and stuff like that, are more active in their choices when it comes to picking and dropping subjects. And if I look at Nigeria as an example, I look at Nigeria at 203 million people now, with over 60% being under 24. And in 2050, we're going to be about 400 million. And that we're going to have a lot more younger people. I think it's crucial that we use our youth in the areas that the global market requires, right? So as an example, the esports and games allows our kids to play, yes, be sporty together, gain knowledge, teamwork and all that, but also the STEM and STEAM-based courses. So your science, your tech, your engineering, your art, your maths are things that they learn, or they kind of grow in interest of those things, and which means that by the time they get to year 9 or GS3, they are more likely to take up computing or related subjects than they are to drop them passively, right? And I think for the future of Nigeria and the digital economy, that is completely critical to the success of us as a nation. It's extremely important that the digital skills and the creative skills are things that our kids choose to hold on to as they cross into senior secondary schools. So for us, we really believe that esports is kind of like the other side of a coin to computing or IT literacy. And if you kind of look at it like that, that if we're able to empower schools to have a network of computing labs for computing, but also for esports, we do believe that the growth that we're going to get to see in esports will be significant. And as parents, one of the other things that's quite important is kind of like when you play football, there's so many universities across the world who give scholarships to children who play esports. And I think for me as a parent, that's also quite interesting, that my child can go to study economics and have a scholarship because they're playing for college level with the school in league or in Overwatch or in any other esports title. So hopefully, if you do have any questions around esports, please feel free to reach out to us at Kucheza. Thank you very much and have a nice rest of your day.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions for her? I do have her contact information as well, so I can always share that with everybody. If you email me, or if you want to take our survey at the end of this, a Google Doc, I will reach back out to you. So just really quickly, I know we have only a couple minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time. The services that we provide, we design and launch esports programs. We can, as a former teacher who's gone through this process, we will also provide roadmaps and tools to help your faculty lead your charge. Every school is a little bit different, and I think your program, your esports program, should be customized to meet the needs of your students, and we'll help you do that. Player profiles and also connecting with colleges, as Dr. G has said earlier, there are many colleges, Shenandoah and Bay State is just two of them, and we believe that the matching of the student with the college is critical, because at the end of the day, we all want these students to graduate and get a job, and so graduation is the key, not getting into the college, I always say. And so we want to make sure that we match the college's support and also programs that they offer to the students so that they can be successful and they can pursue the dreams that they want. Okay, and just to end it really quickly, there's a Google Doc. If you're interested, please take that the survey and let us know what you're interested in. We'll follow up. We can always talk to you more about our app and our services one-on-one as well. And before we close, any questions for our panel members that are still here, and for Tulu and I? Any secret tips you guys want to know? Okay, Tulu, I think that this concludes our forum. I want to again thank Dr. Emerson and Brian Hummel for being here today. I know that Joey had already stepped out already, and we really appreciate your time and your interest in esports. We are all very passionate about it. I think we all have the same goal in mind: support our students, provide a safe and supportive environment to do that for them, and help them create that career and pathway that they want.
And I want to say a big thank you to all the people that showed up. Appreciate the time and thank you for coming. Thank you to all the speakers once again. And we hope we can continue to work with you to improve esports in Nigeria and Africa.
Yes, and we'll stay here. Tula and I will stay on a little longer in case you want us to have a chat afterwards. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Emerson. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
We did have a question, I think, will esports clubs cover a range of skills? I think what they're talking about is, will the esports club help students maybe garner some different skills? And the answer is yes. Usually clubs are not just for players, because I think you'll find that in your population, in your school, that you're going to have students who want to cast, students who want to, or great graphic designers, for example, or students who want to produce streams. And so what we try to do is when we help a student get into, or help a high school develop the esports program, that we support your entire gaming population, not just the players. Yes, yes. In addition to gameplay, we definitely help students build that portfolio up, in whether it's graphic design or producing or casting. And I think that some of the things that we talk about a lot is that the key to really getting that career, that job when you come out of school, even with the degree, is building up that portfolio. So you can show your employer that not only do I have a passion for this, but I actually have some real life experience. That was a really good question. Okay. Anybody have any other questions for us? Yes, Tulu's right. If you would please fill out the Google Doc, that'll give us more information into what you're interested in and how we can better serve you, how we can better answer some of your questions that you may have. Okay, and start you on this journey. I think, when I was a high school teacher and they came to me and asked me, should I, would I head the esports program? It was very overwhelming. And I said, I think that if you're interested in doing a program, we can help you give your faculty and staff the skills that they need and the resources they need. Some from NASAF, which are free, some that that are not, and helping them be successful, because that's really the key. You need someone in every single school to be the one who leads the charge, who's going to hold the tryouts, who's going to talk to your students, who's going to take the role of the life coach for your team. Yes. Okay. So how much does it cost? Honestly, the consulting services to help you set up your club is not expensive. It's really the goal of the club. And for me, I always say, the first step you do, you need to go out there and just figure out what your community wants. And what games that they want to play, what level they want to play. Do they want to play competitively? Do they want to play just casually, and so on? And let's figure out a way to serve that community first. After that, do you need a coach? I think for me personally, I think if you have a club, if you have a team, you should have a coach. There should be someone to lead them in gameplay. There should be someone to help them communicate and build their teamwork skills. And I think it was Brian was saying that coaches range in price from someone from $25 an hour to someone that's a lot higher, if depending on what their ranking and what their reputation is. But that's something that we can talk about as well, to see what kind of coach do you need, what that cost structure is going to look like.
Yes, and in terms of setting up clubs for the schools and cost, it's kind of go on a case-by-case basis, and even just working with individuals. And it's part of the services we offer, helping individuals or schools on the right path to being, playing esports, getting into college, getting jobs, and everything is going to be on a case-by-case basis based on, their needs, what they want to do, what their interests are, what their talents are, and we take it from there.
And like Dr. G says, just get started, right? Taking that first step, I think, is the hardest. I think most people will understand and believe that esports is the future, especially, trying to engage students, in our community. But taking that first step is probably one of the harder things to do. I say that just fill out the Google Doc so we know what your interests are. That'd be a good first step. If you have any other questions, let us know. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. It was, for us, it was a lot of fun. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to work with the community and share our resources and help guide you through this path.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your feedback. This is one of many that we're going to be doing. I think we're going to do several more of these as well, so we can share information.
I think someone was about to say something.
I said thank you. This was great.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.